I want to try and answer the question: has atheism ever really worked on a civilizational level? And before I give you my take on the situation, I want to first give you the conversation between Alex O'Connor, or Cosmic Skeptic, and one of his guests, and then I will react to what they are about to say. Okay, let us start.
One potential atheist answer is to say, well, yeah, if you get a group of people together in a room of really any significant size, they'll come up with all sorts of like awesome ideas, and it could be that civilization begets a founding myth rather than a founding myth begets a civilization. Like preceding is an interesting word there, because I think clearly these two things are going to be interrelated, right? If I get 100 people together on a desert island, I'm sure they're going to form religion, right, as a thing. And I think that is like the interesting problem for the atheist. Is like, well, why does this happen so much? And but regarding whether there's a preceding myth, I think it's probably kind of a mutually interdependent thing there. I mean, can a civilization survive without a shared myth? I think is an interesting question. It's one that I don't have the answer to.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt it. I'm totally pessimistic about the idea of a nation in any meaningful sense, or certainly a civilization being able to be sort of cohesive and survive and thrive without having something that bonds them together more than like the immediacy of their like day-to-day sense experience, right?
Yeah.
And in fact, I think for a lot of atheists, they hypothesize that this is why religion is invented by the mind, by the collective psychology of mankind and womankind, because of course, like, we sort of need things to tie us together. That's like the whole reason it's invented. And so whether the questioner says, I keep calling them questioners, but a lot of these are just statements. Provide me with a single civilization that has ever succeeded upon under an atheistic paradigm. Like, maybe I can't. An atheistic paradigm, no. As people often conflate the idea of like secularism in politics with atheism in politics, right? Like, an atheistic government might be like the USSR, which, like, people bring that up as a point against atheism all the time. It was not a secular government. A lot of people describe it as secular, even though...
Okay, I just have already so many things to say about this question. So first of all, there are some religions that are atheistic or agnostic in their nature, like Buddhism. So the original form of Buddhism, the Theravada Buddhism, actually doesn't tell you anything about whether to believe in God or not. Buddha was famously asked, how would you describe the human soul? And he said, I don't know. So in its original form, Buddha even did not really say whether or not souls exist. His main goal was just to minimize suffering on Earth, and telling you like the way he figured out to minimize suffering and the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism. But that's not the main topic of this video. Then they probably didn't know this, but I actually researched this topic, and there is, if we are to believe this missionary Daniel Everett, this one tribe in the Amazon. They're called the Piraha people. I'm going to leave a link about them in the description. Or the Piraha people. So Daniel Everett was a missionary that tried to convert them to Christianity, but he lost faith in the process, and he claims that they actually have no religion at all. So they don't have a creation myth. For example, even Buddhists, most of them believe in Hindu creation myths, and Confucianists also have their own creation myths. But this tribe, according to Daniel Everett, when he asked them who created the trees and the sky, they said, well, they were always here. Like, weren't they? Weren't this stuff always here? And he said, well, no, like, we believe in a God. Like, we, the Christians, believe that the God created all of this. And then they asked him, but how do you know? Like, were you there? Like, were you alive for so many years? And yeah, then he realized, this tribe is truly unique, and they have truly a very weird way of approaching reality. They just decided to assume that the jungle always existed, I guess. Like, yeah, very, very bizarre. But I mean, some people even accused the missionary Daniel Everett of lying, but I really don't see why would he lie. Like, maybe to bring attention to himself, maybe, I don't know, maybe he later became an atheist, so you could say that it was atheistic propaganda, but it really doesn't prove anything. It doesn't prove that somehow atheism is now true because there's this one tribe that doesn't have a creation myth. But yeah, in a broader sense of the word, creation myth can be like a lot of things. Like, it can be a belief in communism, it can be a belief in the nation. So in that sense, in a very broad sense of the word, I agree. Yeah, every civilization needs identity, and in a very broad sense of the word, that identity is in a way a myth. So yeah, but okay, let us continue.
No, it's like actively, like proactively persecuting religious people, as if that in any way fits into a definition of secular. But it was certainly atheist. Yeah, I can't think of one, and maybe that is because, I'll just grant, it's because like it doesn't work. Right, let's just say fine. Let's just agree with the implication of the question. No civilization can function under atheism. That is as well answered by saying that's because atheism is false as saying, and that's why, although there is no God, people have to invent one.
Yes, but the other thing is that it doesn't strike me as actually a necessary implication of God exists, that no civilization could survive without a belief in God.
Yeah, sure.
But it is an implication of the atheist explanation there. So, like, in some ways,
yeah,
there's actually a strength of the atheist explanation.
Yeah, I think you might be right there, because God could exist, but if God existed, it would seem like even if people didn't believe in him, he could still, in theory, like design it so that civilization can still be stable.
At the very least, it doesn't fall out of theism as a kind of obvious implication that no civilization survive without God. But I think this is an interesting question for atheists.
Yes.
Like, are we being terribly irresponsible, Alex, by spreading our horrific,
maybe, like,
corrosive doctrine?
It's true. It's true, at least to the extent that, I mean, there are studies to suggest that like religious people are like happier, that they have better sex lives, that there's all kinds of things, and so like, there is this case to be made that like, even if you don't think it's true, like, why would you talk people out of it? Like, to what end? And you can say, oh, because, you know, I value truth and stuff. Like, really? Like, more than you value people's well-being?
Well, I mean,
like, maybe, but then I don't know. Like, it is a question that does have to be addressed. I mean, I know you sort of say it a bit tongue-in-cheek, but it's really true. It's worth thinking about. You know?
One interesting implication of basically potentially of an atheist worldview, but also just generally pretty much any worldview that doesn't have a very, very good metaphysical mirror between human mind and the structure of reality, is that there could be things that are true that are just unbearable.
Okay, yeah, so they go on to talk about this Platonic idea of a noble lie, that sometimes you need to lie for the higher good, which I don't know if that's true. Like, that might be true. I definitely agree that from an evolutionary perspective, religion was very useful. That's why almost every civilization has it, other than the Piraha tribe. Yeah, I really need to learn more about this tribe. But yeah, other than that, well, okay, what I find interesting about communist societies that kind of tries to, let's say, replace God with their own myths. Although, I don't know, you can always say, well, most people in the Soviet Union were still Christian. I don't know if that changes anything. But, okay, communism, obviously, it failed in the end. Why did it fail? Well, Archie Brown would argue because communism just wasn't as productive as the free markets, especially when it came to digital technology. The Soviets were falling behind. That's why Gorbachev decided to liberalize, and then that led to the fall of the Soviet Union. Although, well, the situation is actually a lot more complicated than it seems. Archie Brown argues that without the military coup against Gorbachev, republics of the Soviet Union would have never actually proclaimed independence from the Soviet Union. But okay, that's now a topic for another video. But my point is, okay, yeah, so communism, in the end, it turns out it wasn't really effective. but many of the issues that are today present in mostly secular societies, such as a low birth rate, maybe a crisis of meaning, of optimism, of having like a social circle for many people that they want to be in. Those problems were not really present in communist societies. People had a lot of children, like birth rates were really stable. People kind of naively believed in this optimistic utopian future. But okay, then yeah, with time they lost faith in it. But I would argue during the Brezhnev era, the early Brezhnev era of the Soviet Union, like most Soviet people, while they did lose faith in the utopia coming, the argument that kept the system together was, okay, this isn't perfect, but it's better than anything else we had, than the Russian Empire, than Stalin, than even Khrushchev, because the standard of living was pretty good under Brezhnev, and also like you could no longer just found yourself in a gulag one day for, I don't know, for making a joke. Like maybe you could just go to a normal prison for a few years, but yeah, gulags were abolished under Brezhnev. But yeah, so my point was that yeah, I don't think that this fact that today with the rise of atheism, there are like many problems in our society, primarily low birth rates. Yeah, I don't think that that tells us actually anything about religion being true or not. And yeah, also it is interesting to notice that communist societies, yeah, while less productive, in some ways were doing better than some places today, like Russia, for example, demographically at least. But okay, don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you liked this video.